Okay guys, this is a list of 10 lessons, 10 new lessons that I've learned. So I did a video quite a while ago about 10, sort of 20, I think it was in total, but I sort of broke it up into smaller chunks. Like 20 lessons that I'd learned. And I said at the time like I was going to do another more, I want to get to 100 in total of things I've learned, and it was based off a First Man video. But I've gone on a 10 basically, and yeah, if you thought the other ones were good, this is next level. So seatbelts on, because it's going to be very interesting. So okay, so this is one thing. Think long term, and don't try to solve a problem for the immediate term. So let me explain what I mean. I was in a relationship with someone, and for a long while, and things didn't go very well. Like, her mental health wasn't fantastic, and I remember she had this sort of big sort of blankety thing that she sort of had on her wall, and she held it up with blue tack. You know how you get these kind of, like, it wasn't a poster exactly. I mean, I think it was like, to be honest, some old sort of plasticky like thing used in a shower curtain. Like I say, her mental health wasn't fantastic, but yeah. Anyway, she sort of pinned it up on her wall, and it kind of looked nice. But because it was on with blue tack, it would come down quite a lot. And you know, it would often fall down. She'd be like, "Oh, can you put it up for me?" And I'll be like, "Okay," you know. I sort of pinned it back up, the blue tack back up, and then it would be fine. But as it fell, I think it kind of fell off because we were sort of leaning on the bed, and the bed would pull it down. And yeah, I had to keep going. As like every time it fell down, it would take less time for it to fall down again and again. And you know, because the blue tack was just not a good thing to put it on anyway. And I kept saying like, "Oh, do you not want to get some like proper sellotape to stick it up with, or just frankly take it down because it keeps falling down. It's really annoying." She said, "No, it's fine. Just keep putting it back up. Keep putting it back on." And so we'd just be in this situation constantly, whereas this thing would just be on the wall, and then every now and again it would fall down, and we'd have to pick it up, stick it back up. And I saw in the way she dealt with it, and the way, to be fair, like I didn't do anything about it either. So I think I had the same kind of problem, is that we weren't really thinking long term. All we were thinking was just sort it out now, you know, pin it back up, you know, done. But that only lasts you like, I swear, like 5 minutes, and they would just fall down again. And it gets to a point where you have to deal with something. You have to realise there's a bigger issue going on there. The issue being that the blue tack's not good enough to hold up in the first place. Let's get some masking tape. Let's get some staples. You know, a staple gun, whatever it is. You know, and it's a horrendous. I think it's a symptom of bad mental health if you have that attitude with things. But anyway, you can link this thing to, you can see this thing in a lot of other things. So I'm trying to think of a good example, but I don't know. I just see it all the time. Like well, there's that scene in the Peep Show where he Mark's actually this would have been a good example as well. Mark, like he can't lock his little desk drawer, and he gets really pissed off with it, and he's just thinking, why don't I get this fucking thing fixed, you know? And then it's eventually it comes out, and he's like, oh, didn't need to, you know, and things like that, you know. So maybe maybe you just keep making the same mistake and not worrying about it. But there's a deeper thing that needs fixing. Like, let's say you're forgetful. Let's say you're forgetful all the time, or you're always running late or something, and you just don't see it in a big enough picture. You just can't deal with it in the here and now. It's like, oh fuck, okay, I missed the bus and I'll get an Uber or something like that. And then, you're just always looking for short-term fixes to the problem. So yeah, that's number one. I thought I'd more say about that really, but you guys get the picture. Okay, number two. Sometimes you have to smash through things in a very inefficient way. So, especially in entrepreneurship, people are always looking for efficiency and, high quality. And of course that's important. But I think sometimes you can be too perfectionist. I mean, I made a video recently about what I think perfectionism, especially if you're starting out in this kind of thing, is a really bad idea. And sometimes you just need to smash through things in a very inefficient way, because that's the only way you're going to get it done. So, like, I had a dissertation due recently, and the computer I was working on didn't work very well. It kept crashing, and like not, I had to make sure I was really efficient on saving it, and there was a bit of me that was like, should I get back home and get my charger and plug it into my so I had my laptop, because my laptop wasn't crashing. But that was one time where I was just like, no, like, let's just soldier on through. I've only got an hour to go. Just make sure I'm keeping on saving, and then hand it in. And I think that was the better way to do it. Same with this channel. I set these little targets for myself, like upload 100 videos, and let's say I'll upload 50, 70 really good ones. And it's like, well, I've got another 30 to go. I haven't really got any ideas for them, and I'll just write down sort of, well, I need something to hit this target. And I'll write down a bunch of ideas that maybe aren't nice videos, but it doesn't really matter because I need to hit the target. That's the most important thing. Some of my videos on the channel, they're very. I'm just trying to get it done as quickly as possible, because that's the only way you're gonna get things done. Okay, number three. This is a really key one. Don't regret not doing things that you never wanted to do in the first place. So I remember in first year of university, we lived in this student accommodation place, and I had one flat that I was living with a bunch of people, and there was a flat opposite. We were flat 12, they were flat 11, and we weren't desperately close with them, but like we knew them. And I remember one time they had a party, and I went along to it, and there was one girl there who was quite into me, and I remember, but I wasn't very interested in her. She just wasn't my type. And I remember one time that evening, like, she was going to a room for some alcohol, and she was like, "Oh, come with me, Alfie." Or I can't quite remember the context, but me and her were in her room for some reason, and then she just lay down on the bed and was like, "Oh, Alfie, you're a real male manipulator, aren't you?" And like, this obviously was her trying to like shoot her shot. And I was a bit like, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where this is going. And I think I literally just walked out. Walked out of the room, and then I remember talking to my friends the next day about it, and they were like, "Oh mate, why didn't you go for it? Why didn't you go for it?" And I was suddenly like, "Yeah, shit, why didn't I go for it? Like, well, wasted opportunity. How stupid I was not to go for it, not to have sex with her, because I just didn't have two legs to stand on in my own integrity. I didn't I didn't want to. I wasn't attracted to her. So why was I letting people tell me that I should have gone for it? And I just see that a lot. Like I remember there was this staff do. There was a staff do at this job I worked at, and I didn't get on very well with the people who worked there, because it was a bit of a sort of cliquey environment. I didn't really enjoy it, and I wanted to go home for a few days to see my family, and the time that I wanted to go was during the staff drinks, and I thought it through in my head, and I thought, should I go, should I not? And in the end, I decided to go see my family and miss the staff do. And I remember the evening before I went home, and they were like, "Oh, you coming on Saturday to the staff drinks?" I was like, "Oh no, I've got to see my family." And for a second, I was like, "Damn, that would have been really fun to go to that staff drinks." But then actually, I had to check myself, and I was like, "No, it wouldn't have. You've been through this. Like, it's just gonna be they're just gonna be sitting around in some bar, getting drunk on their phones. Like, you're not gonna regret it." And I remember seeing it on their Snapchat stories, and I was like, "Yeah, that was a right call." Like, so that's something to be wary of. Like, there was a part of me that wanted to regret it, but then I was actually like, no, like, you made the right call. Okay. Okay, number 4, always have a plan. So, I'm studying Latin at the moment. One of my hobbies is language learning, and I do Latin in my degree, and I want to spend some spare time learning it as well. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I've really hit a brick wall with it, and I haven't really progressed very far. My tactic's been very immersion heavy, which is like just doing lots of reading basically. But I haven't really got the results I've wanted. And it's been very tempting to give up, but I've decided just to keep going. And one thing that's really spurred me on is to just try new things all the time to improve my learning. So for a start, I was reading quite difficult texts, and then I was suddenly like, oh, maybe I can read something easier. So I was reading kind of Gellius, which is quite technical Latin grammar. Then I started reading Ovid, quite simple love poetry, and then I was like, this is still too hard. What else can I get? And I got some. I got Bede, who's one of the first English authors, and he writes in Latin. So it's a medieval Latin, which is slightly easier. I read that, and I was like, something even easier. So I went out and I tried to find the Bible, the Latin Bible, which is really easy, really simple Latin. Went to the library, they said they didn't have it, so I just bought it in the end. I just bought a version of the Latin Bible, read through that, and the point I'm getting at with this example is, I think you just got to always have some kind of plan as to what to do if things aren't working. Because if you don't have if you just refuse to give up on your plan, if you just change plan, then you haven't given up. It might not be a best plan, it might not work any better. I'm not sure if reading the Latin Bible is going to improve my Latin any more than reading Gellius or Bede, but I'm doing it. I'm not giving up until I finish my degree, and it's just a great way, because then even if you don't achieve what you set out to achieve in it, you're still learning how to deal with setbacks. So that's very important, and I see that in a lot of things. Business. It's like, it's survivorship bias to an extent, but if you refuse to give up, there's very little that people can do. Okay. Be sparing about what you choose to celebrate, for in the fool's house there is always cause for celebration. So what I mean by this is, I don't want this to come across in the wrong way, because I think I do encourage celebration. I think too much of self-improvement just despises any form of partying, and I think it's really bad. I think it's really bad. Even people that I respect a lot, like Hamza and First Man, I think, although I do agree to an extent, and a big part of my own self-improvement has been realising that there's more to life than partying. Like, I think there is a point where you need a bit of partying, otherwise you just become a bit of a miserable human being. And that's fine, but I think a lot of people argue that you don't. And it's like, yeah, you do need some kind of fun in your life. But, that being said, you want to be careful about when you do it. And I'm going to explain my experience with partying. The thing I think is, you go out one time, it's the first time you've been out in ages, really fun. And if you go out the next day, it's about half as fun. The day after that, you know, like, let's say you have a few days off, then it's a Wednesday, oh, it's a, you know, club night at the SU, let's go. Then it's about a quarter of the fun, and the fun just goes down, down, down the more you do it. So you want to choose when you go out for sort of, I don't want to say special occasions exactly, but you want to have a sort of, you want to really make the most of it, and you don't have to have something to celebrate, but I think you want to have a good reason to go out, you know, and you know, maybe it's just you haven't been out in a while, or maybe it's, you know, there's specific bands you really want to see, or you know, an event or something like that, and then it's just so much more fun, I think, and you remember it in so much detail. Like, I remember I went out with some friends for a birthday recently, and I just thought, like, this is such a nice event because we haven't seen each other in ages. We're going to like quite a nice place. You know, staying out, good conversation, and I'll probably remember that night for the rest of my life. But there are so many nights that it's just a blur to me because it's just, I've had the same thing over and over again. And I mean, I had that quote there that I'm rather proud of. In the fool's house, there is always cause for celebration. I think if you're not careful, you can get in the habit of just going out at the sound of a whistle. It's like someone will you'll just kind of make up reasons to go out. It's like, oh, you know, and I used to do this a lot as well. It's like, I'll sort of go to things I didn't really care about for, just for the sake of going out. Like, you know, oh, this team are playing, let's all go to the pub. And I'd be like, great, you know, exciting. But it's like, I don't even watch football. Like, why am I so pumped to go out to the pub to watch a game that I don't give two shits about? And, like, I think one positive thing about me is that I do let myself get into things that I'm familiar with. So I'm not saying abandon it completely, but if you are that kind of person who's just always going out, it's like you need to rein it in a bit. Like, it's all right to just not be interested in a certain thing, a certain motive that's the reason for you going out. You know, like, or I'll just kind of be in situations where people would just be smoking weeds, and that would be the last thing I want to do, but I'd be in that environment because I wanted to you know, it's not going out exactly, but it's a similar kind of thing. I wanted to socialise, but it'd be much better to just be like, this isn't my thing, you know, I'm not going to come, you know, and then go do something else that I do like and find people who I do, who do want to do the same thing through that. So it's a difficult one actually because you can go too far the other way, and it's not nice when people are like that either. But I just meet people that sometimes at events, and it's just like, why do you give a shit about this? You know, I can see it's just like it's so obvious they just can't not go out. They just need some reason to go out. So anyway, that's what number are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4, number 4. Okay, number 5. Oh no. Number 5, yeah. Tidy up the small things first. So, I talked to you guys a bit already about this dissertation that I'm writing. And one thing I thought about that is I was proofreading it. And I'm using a lot of Latin names and words because it's a lot about Latin language. And so, but obviously Word doesn't realise this, so it has it in that little squiggly line. And for a long while I was just ignoring it because I was like, oh, I wasn't proofreading it, but I just thought, it doesn't matter, right? Because you know it's not a spelling mistake, so why not? But when it came to actually proofreading it, one thing that I did is I went through and just deleted all the squiggly lines, because you know you can click ignore all on a Word document and it just gets rid of them. And that might sound a bit like I was just sort of unnecessarily, you know, trying to waste time, but it did have the advantage of where I actually had made a spelling mistake in the Latin words, but because they were all red, I didn't really notice it, and after deleting all the red bits, it's like, oh fuck, I actually did make a spelling mistake there. I mean, Word, it's not, you know, Word just didn't recognise it, but it is actually badly spelled anyway, so that was quite useful. And I just think that was a good way of, it's a good analogy of like how if you tidy up like small things, the seemingly pointless things, then your life's just so really fantastic. And it goes back to the old Jordan Peterson thing of tidying your room. You know, like you might think like, why bother? It doesn't matter at all. But it's like, you know, you have a long day and then you just step back into a room that's clean. That's just so much better. You know, your mental health is or you wake up and your room's not got loads of shit on the floor, and you know, like your desk is untidy. Like it's just so much nicer, and it's a tiny thing. But once your brain isn't fatigued by that small thing, then it can sort of deal with the next thing and the next thing. So I think it's worth tidying up the small things where you can. I mean, going back to that sort of thing falling down in my ex-girlfriend's room, you know, it's like get that sorted, then you're sort of freed up for other things. Okay. I don't care if you're a night owl. Learn to get up early. So recently, I've been spending a lot of time trying to learn how to get up early, and I think it's something that you do kind of learn how to do in a way. And it's funny, I've always thought myself as a bit of a night owl, but it's funny, if you wake up after a fantastic night's sleep at 6 AM and like the sun's rising and there's that sort of golden-y hue in the air and the birds are chirping and the air is fresh and sort of mildewy, and you're sort of sitting there with a nice cup of black coffee, and you know, then I sort of think to myself, no, I'm not a night owl. Like this is so much better, and you know, like each their own. Like there are advantages to staying up, but there are advantages to waking up early as well, and you need to experience both. Before you can say you're a night owl, you know, before you can make the decision, the choice that's right for you, because maybe some people do prefer going to bed late, but you're missing out on so much if you don't get up early. It's just so amazing, and you just get so much more done. And this is a bit extreme, but if you go to bed properly early, like 9 o'clock, and you've had a really busy day, especially if you've gone through a lot of physical work, you know, let's say you've hit the gym really hard, and you've worked a lot on, you've studied really hard, and you know, you've had a little walk back and you've watched the sunset, and your hormones, you're sort of is it your hormones or like whatever, like your body's just really ready to go to bed. You just feel fucking amazing, like when you lie down at like 9 o'clock. It's just, you feel like you reconnect with something that you've really lost in this overstimulated society of just like you know, a bird going back up into its nest at the fall of the sun, you know, and then you wake up the next morning and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. So yeah, give that a try, guys. Give that a try. Invest in yourself. Don't let some idiot tell you it's a waste of money. So we live in a culture that's very against investing in yourself. It's kind of seen as a bit of a waste of money, I think. You know, like I made a video about this earlier, like, I have a real aversion to spending money on certain things, but not on other things. But that's really stupid when I think about it. It's like, how can I go into a bar in Northern Quarter and pay £10 for a beer like it's Monopoly money, but then the idea of spending, you know, 50 quid on a back massage that's gonna do wonders on my back, which is something that happens to me it's a thing that I have every day. Why is that? Surely it should be the other way around, you know? Surely I should be really thinking in my head about spending the money on the drink before I do that. Surely I should just do the positive thing, like spending a massage on my back without even thinking about it, or buying new clothes that I need. You know, I'm not talking about just thrift shopping, like just buying, not thrift shopping, just buying loads of pointless clothes that you don't really need to buy, but like, you know, sorting out your wardrobe so you know, you look good when you go out and you make a good impression on people. Why is that not allowed? But why do I have to think really hard before I do that? Before I buy, you know, a nice bit of clothes that's gonna make me look better. But, you know, buying another double vodka and coke at a nightclub when you're drunk. I mean, I guess it's because you're drunk, kind of. But why is that just? Why am I allowed to charge? Just charge it to the game, you know? Seems stupid. And the benefits of investing in yourself will follow you for the rest of your life, you know. So I think it's something you got to slowly realise for yourself, that it's worth spending money on yourself. But once you see the positive, you know, because I used to have a real aversion to it. I wouldn't buy clothes until I really, really needed them. But, so I wouldn't really see the positive results. But I get to a stage now where you know, I'll think it through. I'll be like, okay, I need to improve my dress sense. I need to get some new shoes or something. And then you see that sort of you see how much better your life is when you're dressed in some clean clothes, and you go, yes, that's worth it 100%. I'll pay twice as much for the same thing. So yeah, invest in yourself, guys. Invest in yourself. Okay, number 10, set targets. So a big thing about this YouTube channel is it's all about setting targets. And you have sort of big targets, like, you know, I want to hit 100 subscribers. And then you have, so that's something in mind, then you have ways to get to those targets, which is like, I'll upload this many YouTube videos. And this is great because it just focuses on you. You know, if you've got a passion that you've never really taken off with, I think what you need is something to hold it accountable. And a great thing to hold your passions, your things, to hold yourself accountable is targets. And it doesn't have to be big targets. You know, like I've got this target to upload 200 videos. It's not a difficult thing to do, guys. It's not a difficult thing to do. But it's still in my mind to do it. And it's still something that I'm focusing on. So, and it's getting me to where I want to be. So, try and focus on targets if you can. And the last one is don't set limits. So, that's kind of obvious to say, but I'll try and explain what I mean. So, what I mean by that is there really is. We're creatures of habit, you know. So I remember when I was doing music, I had a friend who was also doing music at the same time, and we each released 3 albums in our gap year, in around about the same time period. And when I look back on it, that was really kind of no coincidence that it happened like that, because we were kind of feeding off each other, and you know, we're kind of playing off each other's release periods, release schedule. But now I look back on it, like, why did I stop there? And I wonder, because I always guess I was comparing myself to his own release schedule. You know, if he released 4 albums, I would have probably released 4 as well. You know, if he had released 2 albums or 1 album, I'd probably have released 1 as well. So, but like, it's not like I couldn't have done more output. And you know, like, you guys might be sitting here and think 3 albums, isn't that quite a lot? And it's like, yeah, it is, but you know, like, I mean, they didn't take long to make, guys. You know, it wasn't like a proper studio album. It was just kind of, you know, I did most of it on GarageBand, you know, and it's just funny that we just kind of followed each other. Yeah, I don't know. I just think I could have done more if I'd had more output to compare myself to. So so don't try and follow along with what everyone else is doing, because you know, well, you can do that, and like, the bit of healthy competition like we had there is good, but you want to see if you can, you know, often you can just outdo people, you know, but you don't even think about doing it because everyone else is just doing the same thing, so you just don't really bother. So yeah, I guess that's what I mean by that. That's another 10 tips for life. Hope you guys enjoyed.